In the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning. Bakersfield City Council takes up the issue of putting In God We Trust on local police cars, and it was a heated meeting. We'll have the decision coming up.
75 years later, we remember D-Day, what it often called the most important date in the 20th century. We'll take you to the beaches of Normandy and have a look at the somber ceremonies happening around the world.
The man who once challenged Sheriff Donnie Youngblood has been fired from the sheriff's office, and former Chief Deputy Justin Fleeman says he's planning to file a lawsuit. We'll have his full statement coming up on this Thursday, June 6th, 2019. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher and Kevin Charette.
And we did it. We hit 101.
We made it.
Right? You let the cat out of the bag.
Oh, sorry.
Let me advance my graphic.
You were like, make people guess.
Yeah, we did hit the triple digits yesterday.
Yeah,
it was warm. We even had a little bit of cloud cover drift in. We saw some isolated little thunderstorms pop up unexpectedly in the mountains and on the extreme west side of Kern County. So the humidity really rose yesterday afternoon. Not expecting that so much today, but it's still going to be warm, but going to try to keep it below 100. So let's talk about it. Yesterday, yes, we were warm. We did hit the triple digits, and there it is, 101. And we hit it at 5:15 p.m. yesterday. But again, today we will be a little bit on the cooler side. Right now, though, temperatures are matching kind of where we were at yesterday. We're at 75 degrees right now with a light wind out of the north at 6. Take a look at our dog walk forecast for today. This is Diamond, and her owner says this is her daily duty to go on out, get the newspaper. Well, Diamond, I suggest do it early and then take it easy the rest of the afternoon because we are still going to be into the 90s as we head into the noon hour. Curly, Tehachapi at 61 degrees, a light wind out of the west at 6 right now. And as we take a look at the hour by hour, we'll be right near 64 at 7 a.m. and then warming up right near 81 by 3 with that westerly wind at 14. We'll talk much more about your weather in just a little bit, but first let's send it over to Alex, who's got your commute.
All right, thanks so much, Kevin. Taking you outside for the first time this morning to the 99 near 7 Standard, and as you can see, it's looking pretty clear on that side of town. Everything else around the county for the most part is looking pretty good. There is one traffic hazard just to be mindful of. This happened within the last few minutes on the I-5 just south of Grapevine Road. It looks like someone's bumper fell off, and now there's metal debris scattered across the lane. So just be mindful of that if you're headed out the door and headed into that area over the next few minutes. But other than that, things are looking pretty clear. We'll have another check of your commute coming up in about 15 minutes.
A stunning sheriff's office shakeup. The Kern County Sheriff's Office has fired one-time sheriff candidate and Chief Deputy Justin Fleeman. 17's Aton Wallace broke this story last night, and he has reaction and the reason Fleeman claims he no longer has a job.
I got off the phone with Fleeman last night, and he confirms he was terminated from KCSO last Wednesday, May 29th. Now, you may remember Fleeman ran for sheriff against incumbent Donnie Youngblood last June, but Fleeman lost. Still, he maintained his title within the Department of Chief Deputy, and since the election, Fleeman has claimed Sheriff Youngblood and other high-ranking members in the department have retaliated against him because of his decision to challenge the sheriff. And it's that same reason why Fleeman says he was terminated from the department last week. Now, Fleeman claims he was fired based on campaign-related accusations, but he would not elaborate on those details. Instead, he said his attorney will file a wrongful termination lawsuit against the sheriff's office in which all the details will be released. Now, over the phone, Fleeman released the following statement. It reads, quote, "I was wrongfully terminated for running a campaign against the sheriff. In the coming months, a wrongful termination lawsuit will be filed where more information will be released. I asked the news media to cover the story and the people to see who was really telling the truth during the campaign." Now, also late last night, we reached out to the sheriff for comment, but did not hear back. We will continue to monitor this story and bring you any new details as they become available. In the newsroom, Aton Wallace, 17 News.
And that is not the only big news coming out of KCSO. The sheriff's office is shutting down its gang unit. Sheriff Youngblood says he simply doesn't have the resources to keep the task force open. He told 17's Aton Wallace at one point the unit had as many as 20 deputies. Most recently, the unit had just 3 assigned to it. District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer weighed in, saying in a statement, quote, "It is unfortunate that limitations of law enforcement resources prevent this unit from remaining operational. The majority of county's homicides are connected to gang activity, and the District Attorney's Office remains committed to the investigation and prosecution of gang-related crimes." Youngblood says all 3 deputies formerly with the gang task force will be assigned to another unit. Youngblood wants to reassure everyone KCSO will continue to go after gangs. Deputies will just now work out of the Violent Crimes Gang Task Force, which deals with other non-gang related crimes as well.
5:05 now and making news around the world. Today marks a somber anniversary in world history. 75 years since the D-Day landings that changed the course of World War II.
The invasion of German-occupied Europe on June 6, 1944 launched the military campaign that led to the end of the war. This historic footage shows troops preparing for D-Day in southern England and the landings in Normandy, France. After months of exercises to get ready for the massive assault, more than 150,000 Allied troops from the U.S., Britain, Canada, and France participated in the largest naval air and land invasion ever attempted. At least 4,400 Allied troops were killed on the first day of the invasion. Thousands more died in the 3-month Battle of Normandy that followed. Eventually, the Allies liberated Paris from Nazi occupation before defeating Germany in May of 1945.
And as the sun rose today over the Normandy coastline where thousands of men died years ago, a fast diminishing number of World War II veterans remembered D-Day. They say they hope the world never forgets the sacrifices made to dismantle Nazi tyranny. Hundreds of people gathered from around the world at the water's edge to pay their respects as taps played. A lone piper played this morning to mark the minute the D-Day invasion began. Hundreds of people watched as he played on the remaining Mulberry Harbor in the town of Port Winston. The sound of his pipes signaled the moment the first British soldier landed on Gold Beach.
The Kern County Museum held a special event to mark the 75th anniversary of D-Day. More than a dozen World War II veterans were among those in attendance at the museum last night, including a man who parachuted into the first French town liberated during the invasion of Normandy. Historian and author Dr. Craig Luther was the guest speaker. He talked about the importance of remembering June 6, 1944.
It's really hard to believe that we're now 3 full generations removed from that absolutely iconic event in American history. And my goal is simply to help to keep the memory alive in the collective consciousness of the American people of what those brave men did on that day.
Salty's Barbecue also plans to mark the historic anniversary. The restaurant is hosting an event from 5 to 8 tonight at its location on White Lane. Military vehicles identical to those that were used in D-Day will be on display along with other D-Day memorabilia.
It is 5:08 now and new at Sunrise. It's been more than 3 weeks since the McFarland city manager went missing, and the city is taking steps to make sure it can still function in his absence. You may remember John Wooner was reported missing May 14th. He was last seen after he told family members he was going to visit a loved one at the cemetery. BPD has said Wooner's disappearance is out of character, making the situation suspicious. Last night, the McFarland City Council voted to appoint David Tooley as interim city manager. Interim Police Chief Janet Davis has been pulling double duty, taking on Wooner's work as well. She will serve as interim assistant city manager. The City Council expressed continued concern for Wooner.
Also new at Sunrise, at least one person was badly hurt in a crash on westbound 178. It happened just after 10 o'clock last night near the Union Avenue off-ramp. CHP told our photographer on scene that 2 cars crashed into each other, spun out, then went up the embankment. Officers described one person's injuries as major, another as moderate. No word on how they're doing this morning. Officers were also investigating another possible crash as a result of this one. The CHP says it's unclear if alcohol or speed were factors.
Well, things got heated at the Bakersfield City Council meeting last night, but after nearly 3 hours, the council approved a measure to put the phrase "In God We Trust" on all city police and fire vehicles. 17's Karen Waugh was at the meeting and heard both sides of the argument. She explains how division on the matter continues.
It's an issue that's divided our Kern County communities. It's a phrase that's on our own city council wall. But do these 4 words belong on our patrol cars?
Motion is approved.
It was a meeting that started with a prayer.
Amen.
And the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation, under God. And it was a heated, hours-long discussion as 24 people lined up to voice their thoughts, some for and some against the idea.
If I pull out dollar bills, as mentioned before, the words are printed, "In God we trust."
Both sides argued the First Amendment.
Forcing, coercing, or implying that an officer must place the sticker on their vehicle would be a violation of their conscience and do violence to their free speech.
This gives everyone the freedom to disagree.
Many Christians made it a point to express their disapproval of the decals.
I believe in the separation of church and state.
Opponents say these vehicles are taxpayer funded and not all taxpayers are religious.
The staff who ride these vehicles may themselves not share your beliefs in God.
We have the ability to stand on the side of inclusion and unity rather than standing on the side of pretty much discriminating thousands of non-Christians who have served us in many ways.
An alternative, many suggested, is also printed on the city council chambers.
E pluribus unum, out of many, one. That's a very, very important concept. We're not all alike.
Supporters argue it's been our national motto since 1956.
That is patriotism, and that's our history.
City Council's own Jackie Sullivan heads a national movement to get the phrase on city governments.
This is an obvious conflict of interest.
Ultimately, 2 out of 6 council members voted against the decals.
This decision doesn't represent everyone in this community, so I think that is a problem.
We have a lot of serious issues in our community, but yet tonight we're here talking about a decal.
But the movement passed with 4 yeses. As for who will pay for the decals,
It's going to be private donations.
Karen Hua, 17 News.
The Bakersfield City Council also approved a rate increase for its trash and recycling programs. The 3.2% increase is set for fiscal year 2019-2020. The city says it's necessary because of rising expenses like fuel plus new fees at local recycling centers because of the global demand for recyclables. The increase will raise rates for single-family residences from $207 to $214.
It's 5:12 now. It's a historic day, 75 years since the Allied invasion of German-occupied Europe.
Thousands are gathered in France to remember the event that changed the course of World War II. We'll show you the ceremonies and how a Bakersfield representative is paying tribute to our heroes today.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
We were all brothers, believe me. But they're in my heart every time I go someplace.
It was a turning point in World War II, but it came with a heavy cost. Today, on this 75th anniversary, we remember the lives lost during D-Day, and we thank those who served.
Day 2 of negotiations. Mexican officials are back at the White House this morning trying to stop a 5% tax on Mexican goods. The president says more progress needs to be made, while some Republican lawmakers say it could cost American jobs.
And it is time to restock our local food bank. The Oil Can Do It food drive kicks off this morning, and you can be part of it. We'll explain coming up.
Good morning, 5:30. Great to have you with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher and Kevin Charette. So yesterday we did it. We hit the triple-digit mark.
But the question is, we're seeing a cooling trend, if that's what you want to call it?
That's what you want to call it. Yeah, hopefully we'll stay in the 90s today and then maybe some 80s, but then it'll be short-lived. More triple digits will be back on the way. So let's talk short term. Let's talk about this morning and what we can expect for today. And we're expecting clear skies. Yesterday we did see a little bit of isolated thunderstorm development on the extreme west side of Kern County and into the Kern County mountains. 75 degrees out there right now. Basically the temperature we were seeing yesterday. And as we take a look at the hour by hour here, starting out in those 70s, 90 at noon, and then by 3 o'clock we'll be right near 95. For the mountains, starting out into the 60s right now. You have a light wind out of the west-southwest at 6, and as we take a look at the day, you can see we'll start out in those 60s and then progress into the lower 80s. By 3 o'clock we'll be looking at a westerly wind at 14. So overall, not a bad day, trying to keep you below 100, but again, another warm-up is on the way. We'll talk more about that coming up in just a little bit. But first, let's get a check of the morning commute and see how that's faring on this Thursday morning.
All right, thanks so much, Kevin, taking you outside. And we're going to show you how the commute is shaping up at Rosedale and Mohawk. And as you can see, as the sun rises on this Thursday morning, things are looking pretty good to start off your day. Nothing too major right now. There is one traffic crash on the 184 near the 223, but it doesn't look like it's actually going to be much of a problem. But if you are headed into that area within the next few minutes, just be mindful that CHP and other emergency crews could be on scene. Other than that, things are looking pretty good to start off your Thursday. We'll have another check coming up in about 15 minutes.
75 years ago today, U.S. and allied forces launched Operation Neptune. The mission is more commonly known as D-Day, and it was a turning point in the fight to turn back Adolf Hitler and the spread of Nazi Germany. But it came with a heavy cost.
Jay Gray is in Normandy, France this morning, where President Trump, French President Emmanuel Macron, hundreds of World War II veterans have gathered to remember and thank those who have served.
Only the highest courage and determination could avail.
75 years later, the sounds of war still echo along the French coast and in the minds of the men who were there.
All you could hear was machine guns going. They never stopped. Every time I think about that, I get a sick feeling. You know, it always comes back.
And they come back because, they say, there's a comfort in being together here.
It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
In this place, where the carnage of war has been replaced by monuments and manicured lawns. Today, they're celebrated and honored for their courage and unyielding spirit.
You are among the very greatest Americans who will ever live. You are the pride of our nation. You are the glory of our republic. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
But those fortunate enough to survive are the first to tell you their heroes' names.
These men and women died for their country, and we gotta remember them.
Are the ones etched in stone.
In Normandy, France, Jay Gray, 17 News.
They're part of the greatest generation. While many D-Day veterans may be in their 90s, their memories are sharp as ever when they recount their experiences on that historic day. Pete Shaw and Jerry Deitch landed in Normandy as part of the world's largest amphibious operation to defeat Nazi Germany. Shaw arrived on Utah Beach shortly after D-Day and was awarded 5 battle stars and 4 Bronze Stars for his service.
Because I was proud of what we did. And it was not like today, but then they said, well, was it that bad or that good? I said, well, both. I said, I have good memories and bad memories. Until they found out some of the awards and stuff, you know. And they said, boy, you done a lot. I said, not by myself. I had a lot of help, and a lot of them aren't here.
Deitch volunteered for special duty with an elite diving team, an early U.S. Navy SEAL. He was in the first wave to hit Utah Beach, where he was hurt and sent back to a hospital in England. But he returned to the front lines to take part in the invasion of southern France later in the war.
This is one of those things. I had a buddy of mine who was 2 months older than me. I was standing here, he was standing there. It was 5 minutes after we hit the beach, and he was less than a foot away from me. And he took a bullet, and I knew he was dead right away.
Layla Morrison was a nurse in a U.S. field hospital. She served in both France and Germany. Morrison also helped after troops liberated the Buchenwald concentration camp. She was outraged at people who tried to deny the Holocaust or say it was exaggerated.
I heard that, and it made chills on my body. I just couldn't believe it. How could anybody say that? I wished I could have seen them and told them my story. Or there's evidence, if they go back to Germany, they can see what happened.
All 3 are in Normandy taking part in D-Day ceremonies today, along with some 170 other veterans.
House Minority Leader and Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy is also there. He posted these videos and pictures on his Instagram story, marking the historic remembrance. You can see him flying into Normandy. It is an incredible scene, of course, and so many world leaders are gathered there in France to pay tribute. And our coverage of the commemorative events in Normandy continues this morning on the Today Show. Lester Holt and Tom Brokaw will both join the Today Show team with live reports from France. Acclaimed historical filmmaker and documentarian Ken Burns will also offer his insight on D-Day. You can watch the Today Show right here on TV 17, following 17 News at sunrise.
5:36 now. Negotiations part 2. Mexican officials are back at the White House trying to stop tariffs from starting on Monday.
Tracy Potts is on Capitol Hill this morning tracking where things stand. Good morning, Tracy.
Alex and Maddie, good morning. Good morning, everyone from Washington, where negotiations over immigration continue today. Things are still up in the air. The president is weighing in from overseas. He has said that nothing he's heard so far about Mexico and immigration would stop these tariffs from kicking in on Monday. President Trump's tariff threat to Mexico coming to a wallet near you.
Ultimately, the consumers will end up paying more for their fruits and vegetables.
Plus cars, blue jeans, medical equipment. Mexico's negotiators are back at the White House with the president's cabinet today, trying to cut a deal to slow illegal immigration and stop a 5% tariff from kicking in Monday.
We have to make a lot of progress, but they have to step up to the plate.
A senior administration official says Mexico's offering more troops and to crack down on drugs crossing the border. The Trump team says that's not enough. The White House wants all detainees held in Mexico and faster deportations to their home countries. Democrats and Republicans are worried the tariffs will backfire.
I'm afraid that it might endanger some American jobs.
It could push our growing economy back into recession.
We think tariffs in this instance are hurting the chances they get in USMCA.
That's the trade agreement with Mexico and Canada.
We've told Mexico the tariffs go on, and I mean it.
President Trump insists tariffs are justified. The U.S. saw a record number of border crossings in May. Customs and Border Protection report more than 144,000 migrants crossed into the U.S. just last month, most of them illegally and most of them in families. From Washington, Tracy Potts, 17 News.
Governor Gavin Newsom is taking steps to help schools and students impacted by last year's devastating wildfires. Yesterday, he signed an executive order to help communities impacted by the Camp and Woolsey fires. The order ensures displaced students will continue to receive proper education. It also extends waivers to allow money to go toward rebuilding cafeterias. In addition, the order enables the use of alternative sites for charter schools and allows education leaders to meet outside of their jurisdictional boundaries.
A law firm that investigates child abuse claims released a list of dozens of people within the Fresno diocese it says are accused of sexual misconduct. Yesterday, attorney Jeff Anderson and his associates held a news conference in Fresno. His law firm says 43 people within the diocese has been publicly accused of sexual misconduct. The firm released documents showing 14 of those people served in Kern County parishes. Monsignor Craig Harrison and Father Miguel Flores are on the list of the accused.
We're here because the Diocese of Fresno and the Catholic bishops in Fresno are dirty. They're secret keepers. And because they won't disclose the names and the histories of offenders they know violated kids, we assembled that information.
We reached out to the diocese for comment. We're told it's working on reviewing all clergy files dating back nearly 100 years. It is also working with a former FBI official to create a list of clergy who have been credibly accused of improper conduct with minors.
It's a critical time for a local food bank, and you can help restock their shelves.
Coming up this morning, the Oil Can Do It food drive kicks off. How you can help the Golden Empire gleaners during the summer months.
And taking you outside, a beautiful sunrise for you on this Thursday morning. We'll talk more about our weather coming up next.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News with Maddie Jansen, Alex Fisher, and Kevin Charette with your Pinpoint Doppler forecast. This is 17 News at sunrise.